FYI. I got you. Nice. Yeah, wow. Pearly white all of a sudden.
Hey everyone, it's Christine Gritman here with Social, the live stream that I do every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, where I bring on various smart friends to talk about specific topics relating to social media. And today I am talking about one of my favorite topics, video. I love video. Not sure if you noticed that. Someone who does a lot more video than I do, and at a much higher level, is Demian Ross, right here. Woo!
Hey! Oh, I'm cheering for myself. That's
yes,
all.
cheer for yourself. No, dude, if you're not gonna, who else is gonna? So Demian, for those who don't know, and he's gonna tell his own story too, but he does video literally every single day. So let's just launch right in. How did you start doing that? How did this concept come to you of doing a video literally every day?
Yeah, so at the time I had a job where it was all sales. It was really like Google Docs, Salesforce, how many people you could email in a day, there was just nothing creative. And any creative idea that I came up with, it just within the job was kind of shut down. And, I'm probably a marketer first and a salesperson second, but I definitely believe in both, skill sets.
Yeah.
So I just did this as a creative outlet, to be honest with you. I mean, that legitimately at the time was... I started like a year out to the day of the conference that I worked for and just thinking, man, if I could do 300 videos in a year, give myself a buffer, give myself some days that just, maybe the internet's not working or I'm not feeling like it. And that's all it was a creative outlet. I wish I could say, and obviously we'll talk about, some of the success it's had. I wish I would, like, that was my thought. Oh, if I do this, then I'll get this. But it was legitimately just a creative outlet.
And now, one thing that I do definitely want to make sure people know is you are what's called a digital nomad. So you are no fixed address. You're on the road all the time. When are you going home is not a question because you are home. You live on the road right now. So
right.
Did the Road to 300, which was the original video challenge, and we'll get into how that's expanded, but did that start with the digital nomading, or were they sort of separate but happened to be around the same time?
Again, this goes back to kind of the job that I had when I originally went on the road. I really thought I would do like a weekly vlog, and I kind of noticed that it was like a little bit frowned upon. It wasn't like, oh, that's awesome, you're going to be doing that, that'll be great. It was, and so at a preservation for my job and my lack of discipline, to be honest with you, I don't want to put it all on the job, but it was just one of those things where it's like, I think a lot of people see a nomad RV lifestyle as vacation because people do that for vacation. Living in Hawaii isn't on vacation. It's you're living in Hawaii. Just because people visit Hawaii to go on vacation doesn't mean, and the same thing with the RV. When you live in an RV, it doesn't mean you're on vacation. So, no, I'd been on the road almost a year before I started the video series. Yeah, I went full-time June 1, 2017, and I started the road 3/24, 2018. So almost a year.
My goodness. Okay, so then what made you? So you were already doing that, so it wasn't necessarily connected to that. But did that inspire it to some degree? Like, hey, these are cool stories I could be telling, or is it something or is the video project something you think might have come to you naturally, even if you were living in a house, having that same sort of creative need?
Yeah, I think I really just said to myself, I really want to learn how to tell a story using video, and then also I really wanted a consistency project. I could see myself, even if I was fixed address, doing it as well. Like, I don't think it was and I didn't really incorporate the travel that much. I started like, adventure days, like on a Saturday and things like that here and there. I still very much would like to do a traditional weekly travel kind of vlog. And I still haven't, believe it or not, people are like, oh, you're so consistent with your dailies, but the weekly is just really hard for me to like sit down. I'm still very critical of myself. It's weird, but that's something I'd very much like to do.
So tell people who maybe aren't as familiar with your videos, about what the videos are that you do every day.
Yeah, so originally I wanted to shoot a 1-minute video just because at the time, obviously, Instagram was only allowing 1-minute videos. And I noticed really quick that I couldn't tell my whole story in a minute. My range is somewhere in that 2.5 to 3.5 range to really kind of tell a story. And so really it was the idea of sharing, just who I am personally. It was talking about my sales background, my marketing background. And then I did start adding some travel into it. But it really was just like, this is Demian's thoughts more than anything. And what it's really turned into me, it's interesting, especially now that it's been over a year, is I was posting these natively to all the platforms originally. And so obviously Facebook is bringing up these memories. Like, you were on day 75 this time last year. And I'm like, I was in Utah. That part of it is kind of interesting to me personally, but,
it's a diary.
Yeah, it is. And I wish, looking back again, I wish I would have done a little bit better job of really making it a diary. And I just didn't. There was just a real fear that, like anything in social media, and I get scared of this even though I'm not working for it anymore, is that there's such a fear that I can make my life look really great because I'm traveling full time, and I don't want to put on the perception that, like, somehow because I don't have a fixed address, my life is just, it's amazing. Yeah. I'm in an 800 concrete RV park currently today. Mm-hmm. We're here for about 4 weeks. There's a really great 4-week rate. It'll allow us to save a little bit of money.
That's
and
amazing.
Just, sit and focus. But this isn't what people in doing the event, they're not droning this shot. A couple weeks ago I was parked on the Magnolia Beach. That's the shot that they're showing photos. Now I show both. I talk about both. And I don't think there's a lot of travel vlogs that are doing that because they really want you just to see the
highlight reel.
Exactly. They don't want you to see the reel. And so my highlight reel is real with an A in it. And that's kind of what I do.
It's gotten extra real lately. One thing that's been very interesting, because I started following it, you were in the 100s somewhere, because you came on my radar through the Road to Social project that we were on together last year.
Late 90s, actually. Yeah. I hit 100 in Denver, so late 90s.
Yeah. Oh, I was there for 100. I thought it was 200 for some reason, so I was there for 100. And I think that's where you officially said it wasn't going to be Road to 300 anymore. It was going to be 365, and now it's 1,000, and it's like, but
yeah, I don't know if I actually ever changed where I said I really think I like the idea, and even when I talk to people, I say, instead of saying to yourself you're going to do daily, pick a number within a certain time frame and give yourself out, especially as a nomad. Huge. I mean, the internet is kind of wacky sometimes, and you can't control it, and it's not sobriety. You know what I mean? It's like you could miss a day or two, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
that is a really good point.
Yeah, and I tried to do it with working out, where I was like, okay, I want to go to the gym 200 times in a year. That didn't work out. I wasn't consistent with that. But it was better than saying, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Like,
it's a little more achievable.
Every day is hard.
Into account.
Yeah, without a doubt. Things happen.
Yeah, so keeping to the thing of keeping your highlight reel real, keeping your reel real, I like the fact that it has taken more of a turn towards being really honest, towards dealing with, you brought up mental health issues on the videos before, which is huge. I'm a huge proponent of breaking that stigma as someone who suffers from those issues myself. And you brought up kind of things being hard and not being a walk in the park. And I feel like that has actually made things more popular. I feel like people are really responding to that. Have you felt that as well? Or I mean, you see the backlash that I don't, obviously. Right. I see the highlight reel of your realness, but
totally. Yeah. My road that kind of turned on me was day 118. I literally sat down to talk about something else, and then I just had this moment where I was like, I want to talk about when I went homeless in 2016, and when I was probably the seriousness of suicide kind of thoughts crept in as, a single dad with 2 kids, having to displace his kids kind of a thing. And that was, here's the bad side of that. It was probably my most popular video to date, and you can get addicted to kind of like, if that's your goal, is to really grow views and get new subs, is, okay, now I gotta be Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
And that's the part where it's like, okay, there needs to be a balance.
You don't want depression and failure to be a brand.
Exactly. And I even talk about that I recently launched the podcast, and I talked about how
What's the podcast called?
Part of it, but I don't want it to be like that's where Damian's known for. But I will say that the messages I got from people where it was like, if Demian is dealing with depression, no wonder I am. Which I was kind of like, wait, what? Again, it's like, okay, you're only seeing a very small glimpse of me on social media, and you think my life's together. Let's talk about it. And those DMs I've gotten really real, where people are like, oh shit, I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, well. That's social media. Most people won't put it out there. And I think the hard part is the balance of putting it out there for your own personal therapy. You're not holding it in. You're being real. You're releasing it. and it is helping others. But if you are doing it for an attention-based kind of product, it can get really ugly on you. And I see it. I see a lot of people sharing their negative life as a way to, get attention, and when it doesn't get enough, they delete it.
Yeah.
And that's the point of talking about any kind of, depression or anxiety.
It's a tricky balance between, you don't want to lean into the negative and you don't want to become like inspiration porn, but at the same time, keeping it real, it really does help others. That's the incredible thing, the more we talk about these things. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. So in order to make these videos happen every single day, you've had to come up with, here's your equipment, here's how you edit them, here's your process. Walk us through that a little bit, because the fact is, if you were just like, I'm going to experiment with the format, I'm going to try different things, you probably wouldn't be as prolific with them as you are. So when did you get to where you are now, and where are you now with that?
I think in the beginning, so I sat down with my iPhone and set it up on my table, which wobbles, so you can see the video wobbling as my arm's hitting it. I'm not using and I had all the equipment. I've had the gear forever and haven't done crap with it. So the excuse of, I don't have the right gear, get rid of that.
What is your gear?
So right now I'm just using a Canon 70D. I have an 18 to 36 lens, and then the Rode video mic, which is $69. And I get the most compliments on my audio, where I'm like, yeah, dude, it's a $70 mic. And I have the almost $300 Rode. It's just not as good. And so for me, I didn't really sit down and, create a formula and stick with it. It kind of when I look at a David Dobrik, who, his intro and his outros have always been the same. He records a 4-minute and 20-second video every single time, which is kind of a cool editing feat to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That was from day one. He knew he was going to do that. Where with me, I didn't know I was going to do this clap intro. I didn't know I would do this where I fade out and there's these just, my random thoughts or outtakes and the lens cap covering up. All that just came through, people talking about, I really liked when you did that. That was really cool. And then once I kind of figured out my formula, which is probably in the 150, I did 150 of these videos where I'm this is how I really want it to be. And that's when I was okay, I like this style for me. This is my own kind of style, but it evolved. And I think a lot of people get caught up in I'll be honest, I get caught up when I sit down and think about what I want my weekly to look like. I'm stuck in that process of, I should just do one and then let it grow as I do one each week and figure it out in the process. And that's the hard part with it. A lot of people, we just need to get through that and just do it.
How are your weeklies different from your dailies?
Well, I haven't done any weeklies, so I don't do that.
One gets done, the other doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah, that's just an idea. What I'd like to do is do a really traditional kind of B-roll drone shot. Here's where I am. Here's this lifestyle. And so I think the idea, and I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves, is I have the series called Road to 1000. Like you said, it was originally called Road to 300. Now the idea is to do 1,000 videos in basically about 1,015 days. I'm giving myself a little buffer still. The other brand I'm starting is called Rootless, where basically it's my take on the word digital nomad, just because I feel like it's being used way too much and by different people. But for me, Rootless is more the idea of, I, as a 46-year-old that left California, didn't realize I wasn't a big city kid, that I am really a small country kid. I enjoy living in small little towns. The same thing with work. I think a lot of us just get stuck in jobs and careers that we don't realize are draining us. And so the idea is just not to be stuck, not to put down roots. And it's not that you can't put down roots. I mean, if someone's like, oh, I want to live in the same town from birth to death.
Yeah, I mean, if you're that type of person.
Yeah, it's totally.
But that's a little more standard. We kind of know that that's accepted.
Yeah, and I think also, too, what people aren't learning is a lot of people don't know that this is what they want. It's times where people take a vacation. They're like, I want to live in Maine. I've lived in New Hampshire. It's like that kind of a thing. And then what I thought was, as I'm starting Rootless, I'd like to document it. And I think that's where this weekly is going to come out. It's called Plan D. I have a podcast that I'll do each week, and then maybe a Plan D video series where it's a hybrid of documenting, kind of starting my own brand, and then also this lifestyle and trying to teach people this lifestyle. And I think that's really where I'll kind of niche down in those areas. So, because honestly, when I first decided, I actually traveled the country with my best friend Nikki. Originally when we were talking, we were like, let's get out of California, let's go to Texas. We both don't remember where the RV conversation came in, but I do remember I've never pulled a trailer. I've never done RV camping. I've never really done a lot of camping even. And to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I got to learn this stuff. And I just went to YouTube, and it's terrible. There's just not a lot. of like learning. There's like 1 or 2 accounts that took me forever to find that are good, that aren't pitching me the entire, 5-minute how-to. And
They're pitching you on camping.
Exactly. Like,
I get it.
Yeah, and again, there was this fear that if I looked like I had this side hustle, that it could be frowned upon, especially if it was something that was so outside of what I was doing. Where now I don't have that fear. I mean, what, I'm going to fire myself?
Speaking of the hustle, so how are you, is any of this leading to paid opportunities, or right now are you kind of doing it for its own sake?
I think I'm going to take the Casey Neistat stance on this, where, he started his vlog, and we all started watching it. I'm not going to say we all, but we started watching it as this is going to be a daily vlog. What it really was a way for him to create a community to talk about Beam when he launched Beam like a year later.
That's brilliant.
And I think that's what I'm thinking about with the weekly is I'll find this community. Remember, it's not, I think a lot of people are thinking, because there's like clothing, that it's just going to be a clothing brand that for me, it's really.
This is Rootless you're talking about? That's the clothing? Mm-hmm.
I see like conference, I see a magazine, a lot of how-tos, video series, like really where people want to come together. I went and visited a friend of mine yesterday that's a Nomad that's here, that's in the same kind of digital marketing space. And I was just talking about Rootless, and he's like, dude, there's tons for like families that travel, but there really isn't the, like teach me how to do this. Is this possible? And if you have a remote gig, if your gig requires a cell phone and internet, you can do this life 100%. Like, and most people
love that.
Like, yeah.
And a lot of people mention that, I'm sure you hear this literally every day, people having that fantasy. I know that when I was on my honeymoon in Maui, in Lahaina, I joked, hashtag joking, not joking, said to my husband, my brand new husband at the time, I'm like, you work in computers. You can work from anywhere. I can go be like a concierge at a hotel because Forgetting Sarah Marshall had just come out. And I was like, I could be Mila Kunis. Let's just stay here. And we are actually, in our nature, kind of rooted people. So it didn't actually happen. But I have a friend who a couple years ago, she and her husband saved their asses off, took early retirement, sold their house and most of their stuff. And they have 2 small children and a dog. They lived half the year in an RV traveling the country.
Yep.
They said, let's do it. Let's actually make it real. And they're looking for a community too.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I am way more happier outside of California. And it's not to diss kind of California. I recently went back for my daughter's graduation. I think it was just last week. And there was like immediate anxiety that I was like, oh my gosh, this is how I felt all the time. And I just didn't really realize it. And I just don't feel that kind of, even like, it was just weird for me to see diesel that was literally double what I'm paying now.
Yeah.
And just even my Starbucks is more expensive. Like everything's more expensive. And it's like, if you're not going to the beach every day, if you're not living and working within the industry, my parents are both in the industry, it makes complete sense for them to have homes in Los Angeles and New York. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say you shouldn't move to New York in that case.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you go to New York, so when you get back to California, it feels like, oh, it's a small town. Like that's the only reason you go to Manhattan anymore. Just when you get home, you're like, this isn't bad. So I feel like people don't know until they do, like you said, where you go on a vacation or you get out of it. But, what I always talk about, that this lifestyle, for the average Californian, you can travel the country full time for probably half of what you're paying to live in California.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are like, well, I can't afford it. I'll wait till I'm retired, which is going to be a big thing within Rootless. Like, stop waiting. Like, your friends, I'm blessed that they didn't. Like, I'm not a homeschool guy. I would never homeschool my kids. But the kids that I've met that are homeschooled, that are on these road trips, I'm like, okay.
Doing, they're road schooling.
Then maybe that's what I would do because, hey, we're going to talk about the government. We're going to go to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
This week, we're talking about the founding fathers, and you're literally there. Like, that's a different experience than, just homeschooling in the basement somewhere.
When you start Rootless, the magazine, I think my friend needs to contribute.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I have kind of a magazine gene. I've done some local ones. I did Escape magazine when I was in my 20s. I love it. I still love the idea of print. I mean, most of it will be digital. Obviously, it's hard to mail to people that are living Rootless. Yeah. But I think it'd be fun to still have a print version. Like, I think that'd be a lot of fun. So
I love that. So just because I want to make sure that we do get to it, I want to look at what does your process look each day? Because the thing is, you're not batching these things, as far as I know. You're like making them in the moment for the most part. Yeah. So what does that look like each day?
Yeah. So one is I highly suggest batching them, even though I don't. The one time I did, I've batched twice. One, and it worked out like where I got so sick for like 3 days. I got so lucky. Otherwise, I'd have been doing these like throw up video, road to.
There's a market on YouTube for that, but let's not.
Right, exactly. And so for me, I feel like, I shot today's yesterday. I'm trying to get at least a day ahead. It takes away a little bit of the stress. But there are times where I actually shoot when I feel like it. And try to wait throughout the day. And then I'm like, okay, I feel like, let me go out and do it. And I'll have a little bit of a subject matter. So I've written down notes. I've seen a meme. I've had a conversation with someone. And I just put the note down. And that's it. Like, I don't think about what I'm going to say. I clap and I say, today I want to talk about, life before Star Wars, let's say, or something funny. And I would literally just get into whatever that means to me at that moment. You're hearing it when I'm hearing it. Now, I do have the editing process. It's not live. Yeah. I can take my 5-minute clip and chop it into, 3 minutes, but I'm not scripting it. Now, the one thing I'm working about within my process is when I'm editing it is when I'm like, oh, I could have said this. Oh, this would have been so funny. Oh, what if I would have
don't go back and reshoot. Yeah, I know.
I don't. But now I'm starting to think, because I've done that with the podcast where I just sit down and riff the podcast and then I listen to it and I take notes.
That's
and then I re-record it. And I did that like 2 or 3 times to really get it where it is, where I'm like, I wouldn't mind doing that with some of the videos, because trying to be funny every day too, which is part of what I try to do, sometimes it doesn't flow. But man, when I'm editing it, I was like, oh, if I would have said this, it would have been so funny. If I would have done this, it would have been really funny. So literally I set up my tripod. I do a little clap intro. I try to talk for about 4 to 5 minutes so I know I can edit it down. And then at the end, I throw the lens cap on top of it, and that's really it. I drop it in the iMovie. I still use iMovie. I only use Adobe Premiere when I do something called the double Ds, where there's 2 of me in the video, just because iMovie doesn't really have that process. But again, that's the idea of the double Ds, was I want to learn Adobe Premiere. But iMovie just makes it easy for a talking head. And again, the weekly would be done on Adobe Premiere. That would be another. The podcast is to learn how to podcast. Like, I learn better by doing rather than, kind of figure it out and then telling other people how to do it. I'd rather do it and make my own mistakes and figure it out for sure.
So with this shooting and the editing and all of that, about how much time a day does it take? Like an hour, less, more?
Yeah, so in the beginning it was probably about an hour. And I think I'm down to about 30 minutes. I've done it.
You have your format now.
Yeah, I've done it even in 15 minutes, especially if a lot of people say, man, Damian, your jump cuts are really good. And what I think people don't realize, jump cutting isn't in the editing, it's in the recording.
Yes.
It's allowing yourself to move your head for a second and then come back with a different thought. And that allows just to have some better action, the jump cut. And once I started figuring that out, it made the editing process a lot faster. And I think, again, it's just one of those things that, like, once you do it and you do it over and over and over, you really do get good at it. You suck at it in the beginning. Like, I don't even try to go back and look at any video that I've done, because I always feel like the next one's getting a little better, which is nice, and I think that's the process, is just
always
doing it
forward. I love that. I encourage at this time anyone who has questions to get them in there, because we're going to be wrapping up soon. So you have a couple. There's kind of 3 brands you have now, right? You have Plan D, you have Rootless, and you have Road to 1,000. What are the nuances between? And I know it's still being worked out. So what are the nuances there?
Yeah, so I think Road to 1,000 is just the idea of shooting 1,000 videos within 1,015 days, giving myself a buffer to learn it. And again, I want to tell people, you don't have to do 1,000 videos in 1,000 days. I really feel like the sweet spot is probably about 100. I feel like I got a lot of traction out of 100. I mean, look, when I met you, I'd already been invited months earlier to speak, and I probably was on day 40 when I was a sales guy being asked to come speak at an event just because I was doing, 30, 40 days in a row of video. So
an event we're both about to speak at again, by the way, one of several events that we're speaking at, Social Media Week Lima, which I don't want to over talk about because I've had 2 guests in a row on who are also at Social Media Week Lima. Not on purpose. It's just who we know, It's like family reunion.
Small circle. It is.
Yeah.
And
that's
that'll
Road
be,
to...
Yeah, that's Road to 1,000. Plan D has always been... I've had an interesting life, and I feel like people give up after Plan A or Plan B. And I was like, okay, this is like my 4th go around. But the D also has to do with Demian. Like,
yeah, clearly.
I'm actually being really selfish. And I've been selfish before, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I was selfish in a way that was self-serving. I feel like I'm selfish in a way now that helps others, in a sense. And I feel like that's the idea behind Plan D, is you can put yourself first, and by doing that, you know, I'll be a better dad. You know, at some point I'll be a better boyfriend or husband. I'll be a better friend. I'll be a better, you know, boss or employee, whatever it is, by doing that.
I'm working through that right now because I am like a mess right now in terms of figuring out my life, and it's making me a crappy mom. I'm like yelling at my kids all the time because I'm on edge, and you have to realize sometimes, you know what, if I'm gonna serve the world, I need to take a step back.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing about Plan D that I am really considering is making it gated community, because I really feel like I want to be able to talk about my finances. I want to talk about things that I just don't want anyone that just wants to, you know, throw in a Google search can find it, and not make it even really. That. Yeah, but I think there'll be a lot of training and teaching in that too. And if someone wants to start a business, or if someone wants to start this lifestyle, or if someone wants to start this lifestyle while starting a business, they'll learn a lot. So I feel like that's what's really going to happen with Plan D. Rootless will not be gated. It'll be wide open. You know, anybody can hang out. And again, it'll just be really talking about this lifestyle. And please understand, I'm not talking about you have to be like on the go constantly. I'm looking to buy a big piece of land. I'm looking to build a really small little home. I'm looking to videotape all of that. I'd like to refurb a smaller rig. The rig I have is really big. I'd like my life to be a little bit of a mix of, you know, being a little bit stable in an area that I really love, that I don't feel stuck, but then also at any time I need to, I can just jump in my rig and go. And just documenting that whole process of all those things that I want to do. I had a plan to, after Lima, to go on like a train ride in and around East Coast. It's just not going to work out financially, but it's still in my bucket list of something I haven't seen a lot of people do, is, you know, travel for a month on a train. You know, like full on, not hobo. I mean, I'd have a seat and like be eating meals, but
a bandana on a stick.
Like I could do that part of it too.
Do that for the Insta, like.
Yeah. See, look at you. That's not the highlight reel. That's fake. Just kidding. But no, totally. That'll be my clickbait. 100%.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I'm so excited to see how all of these things pan out, especially Rootless. I think that's very cool. And even though I'm not a digital nomad and I'm not cut out for that, and I have a family and a mortgage and all these things, I would look at Plan D, because simply I love the idea of a supportive community that's about, you know what, things aren't perfect. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Things are not perfect, and let's talk about it in a non-wallowy way.
Exactly, and people will just see the real moments. And I feel like anytime I've done a talk too, I've talked about being sober or a single dad or failing at marriages, blah blah blah. And I feel like those are the moments where people are like, "Oh, I can relate."
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny how we relate to kind of our hardships more than our successes. You know,
it's so true.
You know, like if you look at like a Gary Vee, there's areas where I can't relate to him, but there's moments where he talks about times being rough, and I'm like, I can relate.
Yeah.
I can relate to bagging ice for $2.50, you know, taking a crappy job, blah, blah, blah. And it's those things that I think are really powerful, and we need more of that.
I love that. Nice hat, by the way. Let's check out that tag there. Rootless.
Yeah, little leather Rootless. Yeah, there's a bunch of branded stuff that's coming out that I'm super excited about. When I was in LA, I was meeting with some clothing designers and looking at some stuff that I'd like to do. And there's just slogans that I think are really important in this lifestyle. I mean, like, you know, just even something like less is greater than more. I've learned that. If you would have talked to me 3 years ago, if you would have talked to me, I wanted an 8,000 square foot home. I wanted 8 cars. I wanted, you know, the 80-inch plasma is the biggest one, and it's $5,000. That's what I wanted.
That.
I don't want.
I can't picture that, Demian.
I know. But I mean, that's where once you have, like, I rock pretty much a white V every day. My life is really, it's so simplified now that it's actually really simple. And I still find a way to complicate it, though. But the more, you know, my mom worked for Jay Leno for, you know, whatever, 20 years. And he wore the same outfit every day, ate the same lunch every day. And I thought that was ridiculous. But now that I think about the time that he never wasted looking for what he was going to wear or what he was going to eat that day, and he put that into, you know, his product, no wonder he killed it for so many years, you know? Seriously, I sit around all the time.
Decision fatigue.
It is. And right now I have none. Really. Which hat am I going to wear? That's why. Should I wear a hat? Should I let the crazy hair go, or should I cover it up in a hat? That's my decision.
You should wear the Rootless hat, because it's the best hat.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so very, 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 very much, Demian, for being here today, for talking to us about how you get your video happening, how you make it happen, and the fact that anyone can really do it. I'm looking up something right now. I'm just trying to make sure I have the last name of next week's guest right. So while I'm at that, can you give us like your number one tip towards just getting video to happen?
Yeah, I think it's really the biggest thing is I'm going to quote my boy Brian Fanzo. Is just press the damn button, and don't forget that the other button is the publish button. Done is better than perfect. I mean, I'll do all these cliches, but they really make sense. And nobody likes their first video. Nobody likes their first podcast. Nobody does. And once we get out of that fear, and I'm telling you too, it gets become like a little bit of addicting. Like, can I do this?
Does.
And like just, you know, I've had days where I didn't even want to get off the couch for 23 and a half hours, but I got up for 1/2 hour to shoot and record a video and get it back up. And that gave me a sense of accomplishment. Like, at least I did something today that I'm being consistent. And it's, you know, I think we all need that. So, and everyone, here's the other thing too. People will say, well, Demian, I don't travel the country like you do. My videos will suck. I've shot videos in bathrooms. I've shot videos next to dumpsters. You know, like it's not location based. It's content based. No, I don't have the equipment. I'm telling you, just your phone is good enough equipment. You'll be fine. Just get it going. Start today. Whatever your reasons are, get rid of them and just start today. You'll love it.
I love that. Just do it. Although that slogan's taken, but that's okay. Just do it.
Without a doubt.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Demian Ross of Plan D and Rootless and Road to 1000. I encourage everyone to go check out the Road to 1000 videos. It's really short. They're very bingeable. It's a great journey. What day is it today?
4:37 I record today.
4:37. All right, so you got a nice binge set up right there, guys. Pop some popcorn, just do it. And again, I'm Christine Gritman. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Next month, it is June. It is Pride Month. And so every Friday in June, I'm actually going to have someone involved in the LGBTQIA plus community talking about using how they use social media and digital marketing in a way that impacts that community. And the first one is Jay Bendett, or Bendit, I'm not even sure. And they run an agency, a communications agency. Oh, why am I not prepared? Amateur hour over here. But they
so wait, I'm your last straight guest for a while? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, potentially.
Nice. That's really, I like that you're doing that you're theming it up with the month and putting it on. That's really
Argo Collective. I couldn't remember the name because I get very in the zone, but Jay Bendett from Argo Collective, which is a communications agency that specifically has inclusion and social justice and all that great stuff baked into not only, you know, oh, our company donates or whatever. No, they work with people to bake that into their communications, into their company culture. Inclusion is an essential part of their brand and the people that they work with. So we're going to have Jay on next Friday at noon to discuss that, and I'm very excited. And thanks so much to everyone for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Bye now. You wait till it's like way